you're a current or former rideshare driver, listen closely, as you may be entitled to significant compensation. That's right, if you drove for a rideshare or food delivery service anytime in the past 3 years, you may be entitled to significant cash for unpaid wages and mileage. Text RIDE to 323232 right now to see if you qualify for compensation. That's RIDE to 323232. Rideshare and food delivery services may be in violation of federal and state employment laws. If you were a rideshare or food delivery driver, part-time or full-time, anytime during the last 3 years, you may be entitled to significant compensation. Text RIDE to 323232 now.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful May the 21st, 2021. Rondo Deportes, bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, it's one of these days where I kind of lost focus of what I was doing and where I was, and then all of a sudden I realized it's the weekend, and so I can relax now and, just let everything slide by. Once again, I want to thank you, our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. They don't let anything slide by, Charlton. They got a Band-Aid for everybody.
They got a Band-Aid for everything, and you can have a Band-Aid too. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, just tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars never stop arriving. Also, all around the world, just Google or Alexa play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, Big C, it's hot. It's getting so hot in California. I don't want to take my clothes off, but I feel like I should, Big C. But I hope it's not too hot for our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why should everybody care?
Well, Charlton, we have a beautiful spring day down here in the south. And, it caused me to lose a little focus because it was so nice. But we can't lose focus on the plight of our veterans, Charlton, in this country. We lose over 2 dozen a day to suicide. Suicide is a pandemic in America, Charlton, as we look at it. Everybody has been thinking about COVID-19.
Yep.
But suicide has been around and affected so many families, Charlton, over the decades in America. And we need to focus more back on paying attention to the people that are around us, as well as the veterans that are out there, Charlton. Finding a way to just communicate with people, and that will stop a lot of people knowing that they're cared about.
Yep.
And that's what a lot of our veterans are not having, knowing that they're cared about, Charlton. So as a society, I know we're a lot of self-centered people in America, but we need to also think about those people who gave us the ability to be able to sit down and be selfish as Americans and think more about our veterans.
That's very well said. That's why I love giving out our line, 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. You can definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones. Also very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid, as well as the home run king Barry Bonds. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country to help put people back to work, just like McDonald's does it, car dealerships do it, sports teams are doing it, watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country on the wholesale side. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said in Genesis 1:3, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up from all over the world, and I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. Man, Big C, I've been singing this song so much. It's getting hot in here, so take off all your clothes. And I realized it's the great Nelly who sang that song, Big C, but I don't think he meant take your clothes off in broad daylight, Big C just does.
Well, Charlton, I think he was talking about all those Pac-12 players out there, Charlton. It's getting hot at the casino when they're playing cards and rolling the dice, Charlton,
okay.
Making that money.
Yeah, he's making that money. So I guess it's a double entendre. You can look at it any different way that you want to, Big C. But I know a lot of people have been taking off their clothes in California. I'm telling you, it's a little bit different out here. I see people running down the street in their underwear, and then I realize they're making workout gear to look like underwear, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that's what everybody's wearing now, Charlton, when you think about people running track and field, panties and bras.
Yep. And somebody came up with a marketing scheme. You could have just worn your panties and bras to the track and field event. They call it sportswear, man. We got to get into marketing, Big C Sportswear. It's all fair and level war, Big C. There's a lot of good things going on in the sports universe. We have golf going on the East Coast, basketball going on all over the country. There's a big game in town in the Bay Area tonight. It's the Golden State Warriors versus the Memphis Grizzlies. And the basketball universe has Golden State between a 3.5 to a 4-point favorite for the Friends coming out of Las Vegas. It's a beautiful sight, Big C, the beautiful Chase Center in downtown San Francisco, California. Steph Curry, NBA's MVP in my opinion, and a lot of people are starting to see that, Big C. You also have Wiggins that should step up and help tonight, and they should be able to advance and play Utah. Memphis is going to claw. They're going to try to claw their way into a game, but it should be a win for Golden State. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is going to be a tough battle. Memphis is not going to lay down. They offered the same problems that Los Angeles did to the Golden State Warriors, Charlton. They have size and length on the inside. Valanciunas is going to be a beast tonight against the Golden State Warriors. They don't have anybody who can match up with him physically. He had a 20-20 game last time out. So that's something that's going to have to worry the Warriors. And we saw the officials allowed the Lakers to get physical with the Warriors, so that's something that they're going to have to concern themselves with. And I can imagine that Memphis will do the same double-team tactic against Steph Curry.
Yeah, it's all about officials and who gets calls. It's all fair and well and war. I wish both teams nothing but the best. That's not true. I wish that Golden State wins tonight because I love seeing basketball played in Northern California, Big C. There's a lot of good old boys that owe the great Russell Houdini Westbrook. I don't know if you call him Russell Houdini Westbrook or as you call him Russell Drag Racer Westbrook. An apology, that good old boy, he and his friend, Beatley, they took their time last night. If that makes sense, they took their time and they blew out the team from Indiana. And I guess Reggie Miller and Larry Bird had nothing to do with that loss last night, Big C. You suck.
Well, Charlton, I like to identify him as Russell Westbrook because he shoots so many of those, and he did that again last night.
Yeah.
But he helped his team out, Charlton, by not shooting so much.
Yeah,
that was the key to their victory last night, is that he gave up the basketball and decided not to be that hog that he normally is on the floor, pulling up from three-point range, Charlton, when he has an open man on his roster that can hit a soft, mid-range jumper. And that's what he did last night. He gave up the assist. He did not float around in the key, laxing off on defense. He actually stayed with his man last night.
Yeah.
So he did play team basketball last night for the first time in a little while.
Yeah, he was doing his thing. So they'll move on and they'll have their hands full with the big cheesesteak called Joel Embiid, the Philly cheesesteak. People, it's all fair and level where they should have the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats, Big C. I want to just touch on real quickly the WNBA. Friday, May 21st, Big C, their schedule. Atlanta's at Indiana. New York is at Washington. Connecticut is at Phoenix. And L.A. is at Las Vegas. So there's a lot of things going on in the world of WNBA. It's just kind of the way it is, Big C. We have the NHL playoffs. We have the NBA playoffs. Major League Baseball swinging the bat. Football is like a 24-hour-a-day business. But WNBA, they are trying to squeeze in some games, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, they're getting their reps in, Charlton. The WNBA is playing well, but the problem is you got the NBA playoffs going on, as well as Major League Baseball and the NHL playoffs, Charlton, which takes up so much of the media time.
It takes up much of the media time, Big C. That's why I love on Big C Sports. We pay homage to every day that the WNBA is in action. It's all fair and level war. Big C, I know you've been in a couple of commercials. In fact, I've seen you in a couple of commercials more than once, playing more than different characters. And I really appreciate the fact that a lot of people come to Los Angeles and California so they can do acting, Big C. I want to get into Big C's Actor of the Year. It's always Hollywood. I remember the great Johnny Carson. He would always, here's Johnny. Well, here's Big C. So Big C is Actor of the Year. How floppy swung the NBA. When you think about flopping, Big C, I don't like it, but flopping has swung the NBA's Game of the Year. And why the NBA should hate that, Big C, it's just my opinion, and everybody has one. The NBA had what may have been its Game of the Year on Wednesday when the Los Angeles Lakers, they rolled a desperation heave from LeBron James, and he would say it's just a well-made shot, Big C, to beat the Golden State Warriors without the Blast Brothers, Big C. They did have Steph Curry, but the Warriors lost that game 103-100. And when you're thinking about Big C, it was a 7-versus-8 play-in. But what I don't like about it, and I know people make fun of it and it gets a lot of attention, but you don't see flopping when you watch WNBA. They're more about fundamentals, and I wish the NBA would take note of that, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, flopping is illegal in the NBA. I mean, you're supposed to get a technical foul with it, Charlton. And also the other team retains possession of the ball.
Yeah.
But as we look at it in a couple situations in that game in Los Angeles the night, Charlton, it was totally blatant, flagrant.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know whether I was watching a basketball game or the WWE wrestling match.
Yeah, it's probably both, Big C. I mean, it's all fair and level war, but I really think they got to put a stop to it. If a person's going to flop, treat it just like you treat a foul. Give them a foul, Big C. Don't just let them flop and slow down the game and try to get attention of the officials. It's not fair, but it's not fair, and that's my opinion, but it's all fair and level war. 3 crucial foul calls on the great Draymond Green in the fourth quarter are sure to stick with plenty of viewers. And I'm telling you, these games, there's a script that goes to games, Big C, and they're Hollywood. They're just doing what they got to do. But first, in the middle of a typical tic-tac foul, Big C, passing sequence from Golden State, Davis hit the deck like he'd been shot from the floor or been knocked out by the great Mike Tyson, Big C. He's too big to go down when somebody touches his fingernail, Big C. Your thoughts?
I've seen tissue paper tougher than what Anthony Davis was on that play, Charlton.
It's acting.
Because Draymond Green stepped out, all of a sudden Anthony Davis lunges 5 feet out of bounds, and they called the foul on Draymond Green.
Yeah.
And all he was doing, Charlton, was passing the ball and stopping.
Yeah.
And Anthony Davis just ricocheted off his body like he only weighed 103 pounds.
Yeah.
And it was ridiculous that the officials buy into that. Why in the hell do they have the replay camera on the sideline, Charlton, where they go look at the monitor
That's right.
and review a play?
Yeah, that's right. And if they want to make this part of the game for entertainment purposes, just say that and give them a point. If the flop is so good that it gets a foul called on your opponent, it should be good enough to add a point also. But that's a bad thing for the game. It wasn't the end of Green's involvement with controversy, though. He also got a tech earlier, but just 2 minutes into later, when you think about it, he contested the LeBron James layup. And in transition, he smacked him in the face and sent the officials to the review for actions for a possible flagrant foul, Big C. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but he went up trying to block a shot. So are you supposed to keep your hand down? I don't know if that's... Did they keep the hand down, Big C, to avoid a call? Your thoughts?
Well, that was not a flagrant foul, and they got that right. But see what I'm talking about? They went to the monitor to review that.
Yeah.
But on Davis's flop, they said, okay, let's just give the ball to the Lakers and stop the Warriors' momentum.
Yeah, they did that, and it happens in every single series. They even have sports shows that do a flopping contest, but that cheapens the game. You don't see that in the WNBA, Big C. The real killer, in my opinion, it came a few seconds later after James missed the second free throw, and then the Warriors headed down the floor with a chance to break in the tie. With under 2 minutes to go, and the game started at 98, Big C. Wesley Matthews, he dropped a face-first Ric Flair, Big C, after a knife-edge chop when Green set a screen on him. It's like they're in Las Vegas doing Showtime, and it's not supposed to be that way, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, no, I mean, that's what's bad about the game. I mean, you talked about the ratings and how good this game was for the NBA. But when you rob a team and rob the fans, Charlton, of the quality of officiating, That's what's bad about professional sports. You talk about prop betting all the time.
It's there.
And when
it's
you
there.
saw that where he flopped straight down on his belly, Charlton,
Yeah.
coming off of a screen, I mean, you saw that and knew
Everybody
it was a
saw
bad
it.
call, and you're the biggest cheerleader there is on the West Coast. You know, I
Yeah.
still got your chocolates and cherries coming out
It's
there
all
for
fair,
you. Don't worry about it. It might have melt by the time you get there. But
Might
I
be
mean, the
melted.
Lakers melted all over the floor.
Yeah.
And got the benefit of the doubt from their acting skits from the officials. I guess LeBron was mad because he didn't win an Oscar this past year. So
Yeah.
they got that Oscar the other night.
Yeah, as big as he is, and all the MMA guys, they laugh at NBA players acting like they're big and tough, and you touch someone on their fingernail, and they act like they were hit by Mike Tyson. It's all fair and level war, Big C. I think ultimately, though, the league may only care about if a direct link from one of these calls is a negative impact on viewership can be shown. I know viewers don't tune out. There's programs doing a whole segment on Phantom of the Flopper, if that makes sense to you. But for economic reasons, Los Angeles securing this playoff spot is probably a big deal. It is a big deal. Like I told you, there will be the Western Conference champion, Big C. And again, even if you doubt that, just keep paying attention. You put Davis or Matthews on a witness stand, you probably can't prove that either intentionally flopped. But you didn't see flopping when they had Showtime with Worthy and Kareem and Magic. They saw good basketball. I hate that the league is really endorsing this garbage tap. I guess it's a garbage call or a garbage non-call. They endorse it because they're doing nothing to fix it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, if you go back to the NBA of the 80s and 90s, Charlton, where the game was about physicality,
Yeah.
we saw those type of plays all the time, and no whistle was blown.
Exactly.
Players didn't flop. They bounce off a pick and try to work around it. Now
Yeah.
they just lay down and say anybody's got a for me.
Yeah, and I think Adam Silver has to look back a little bit to see how David Stern ruled things. If you want the game to be taken serious, you got to do something about this garbage that makes the game look cheap for people that really love the game of basketball. You don't have a wedding and invite strangers in and dance all over the floor and eat all the cake, Big C. If you're going to be in the NBA, you got to be professional, in my opinion, as a referee and as a player. When you think about video evidence, meanwhile, there's just one flopping fine handed out in 2020-21, and the rule books aren't even being enforced, Big C. If they don't take it serious, I think they have a chance to lose the credibility. And once you lose credibility, that's when you lose viewership, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you just stated it in a nutshell, Charlton. One flopping fine all year long.
Yeah.
And the NBA is not going to hand out any flopping fines for what we just witnessed in Los Angeles, Charlton.
Yeah.
Which were two very egregious scenarios.
Yeah, they even had a couple. I mean, you can call out any player. All the guys are doing it because the league is endorsing it by not finding guys that do it. Just like you can have a reverse on a foul call, Big C. You should do the same thing if you reverse a flop. If it's not a real put to the ground type of hit, Big C, then they could call a technical foul on that person and get that garbage out of the game. But that's just my opinion, and I think all the Hall of Famers would appreciate that. Bill Russell didn't flop, Big C. He just grabbed rebounds and won championships. It's all fair and level more. But in the end, Big C, in my end of the season NBA awards, I want to get Big C's thoughts on Big C's end of the season NBA awards. We don't always see things the same, Big C, but I want to go about a ballot for Big C Sports, and everybody has their own opinion when it comes to the end of the season NBA awards with the regular season in the books. And again, everybody has their own opinion. To nobody's surprise, the great Steph Curry, he joined long-term favorite when you think about Nikola Jokic, Big C, and Joel Embiid as MVP finalists, thanks to his furious scoring bench. And he's been doing it all his life, it seems, but especially over the last several years in the NBA. He's been lifting the Golden State Warriors to the NBA play-in tournament, and not just the play-in tournament. He has people that were in the G League believing that they can advance in the first round, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, see, a lot of people don't realize that Steph Curry has not always been this great throughout his NBA career, Charlton. It took him 5 years just to get his first All-Star berth. So he was a late developer in the league. And yes, he has set the league on fire the last several years, but he was not always the Steph Curry that we see today.
Yeah.
And yes, he's been on a torrid scoring pace the last couple of months, Charlton, to get himself into the MVP hunt.
Yeah, he had a lot of ankle injuries when he first got into the league, and many people felt that might maybe jettison his career in the NBA. But today with physical therapy and the way they work with trainers, Big C, you can have all kind of issues and come back the next year. But despite Curry's historic scoring surge, I think he'll get over 35 points tonight. in their game against Memphis. I think Golden State's going to win that game, Big C. They're going to have some foul trouble for Memphis, in my opinion. But when you think about Joker, Big C, he remains, in some people, mainstream, an overwhelming betting favorite to secure his first MVP. Meanwhile, reigning back-to-back MVP in 2020, Defensive Player of the Year. People don't talk about him much, Big C, but the great Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's not a finalist for either award, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, people get, a little mystified, Charlton, in thinking about that. But,
yeah.
You got to do something extremely exceptional when you've been back-to-back champion,
Yeah.
Charlton. You got to go above and beyond anything that you've done to get that MVP nod again.
Yeah, it's called voter fatigue, Big C. When people see greatness all the time, they say, okay, what can you do for me now? We see that in the NBA Slam Dunk All-Star competition. People say, well, I've seen that before. Until you hang to the rim like the great Vince Carter, then a lot of people think it's not worthy of it. But it's all fair in love and war. Will betting favorites prevail, Big C? And when you think about the favorites for all the awards that made the cut, including the great Julius Randle, and congratulations to the city of New York, Big C, when you think about him just bringing that team back to relevance. For most improved player, also the great Rudy Gobert, he's been at the abyss with the COVID outbreak and touching microphones he didn't know. For Defensive Player of the Year, Big C. And then the great LaMelo Ball. For Rookie Player of the Year, he's been in the back shadow of his father, also his brother Lonzo Ball. But that good boy, he passes like he's Magic Johnson, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, he's done a marvelous job in his adaptation into the NBA. You got to understand, he has played professional ball prior to his rookie year in the NBA,
Yeah.
a la Luka Doncic, Charlton. He's gone down to Australia and played with professional players, so he wasn't the average kid coming out of college.
Yeah, he wasn't the average kid coming out of college. Plus, I really do want to just say that his father, because oftentimes people will throw a man under the bus if he does the Drew Boudini Brown for his children by saying he's great and they're going to make it. Maybe he talked it into happening, Big C. You have not because you ask not. So I appreciate his father for getting two of his sons to play NBA basketball when mainstream media wanted to destroy that man for just standing up for his own children, no matter what people think about him. I think that's a great job that he's done with his own children as far as I know. But when you read through the selections and you dissect a lot of the picks, Big C, the winners of the awards will be announced throughout the playoffs. I would love to see it announced at the end of the season after they crown a championship, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think that's too far to wait because, it's anticlimactic at that point. Because you're talking about regular season awards. You're not talking about playoff awards.
Yeah.
And so the votes are already tallied. So you're not going to add in what somebody potentially can do in the playoffs or do not do.
Yeah, well, just like the great Giuliani, your friend Big C, he said, count all the votes. And sometimes it's okay to wait and count all the votes and justify all the votes. It's all fair, love, and war. But that's my opinion. If they did it at the end of the year, just like they crown the champion at the end of the year, they don't crown the champion before the season's over. You might be the MVP of the league and MVP of the playoffs, and you don't get a chance to have that added to what you do in the regular season. It's all fair and love and war. But the MVP finalists, want to get Big C's thoughts, you have Nikola Jokic for Denver. And Denver, you can't even watch the Denver Nuggets on Comcast TV. Also, the Colorado Avalanche in Colorado because they have some type of a TV hang-up, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I haven't been to that state, but everybody's high half the time.
Maybe that's why. Yeah, maybe that's why. The 420 can't allow the TV coverage of the local team. The great Stephen Curry. The great Steph, 4-3 3-point Curry, Stephen Curry, Golden State Warriors, Big C. Also the great Joel Embiid for the Philadelphia 76ers, who I still want to say they will win the Eastern Conference Championship. Everybody has an opinion, but they will win the Eastern Conference Championship. It's going to most likely be the Los Angeles Lakers and the Philadelphia 76ers if that prediction comes true, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, for the first time in a long time, we got two centers vying for the MVP of the league, which is something that means the big man is relevant again in the league, and Jokic will walk away with it, Charlton. I know you love Steph Curry, but Jokic just won this year.
Yeah, when I saw the great Denzel Washington get robbed for Malcolm X, I said, anything's possible! The great Kevin Garnett, Big C, anything's possible. It's all fair in love and war. How about Rookie of the Year finalists? The great LaMelo Ball, Charlotte Hornets. Michael Jordan did his thing on that pick, Big C. Then the great Anthony Edwards from Minnesota. Not many people are being able to see him prime time. And Tyrese Halliburton for the Sacramento Kings, Big C. He's been doing his thing. And they're also bringing back Luke Walton for a coach next year, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you think about Edwards, since the All-Star break, Charlton, he has been on fire. He's been electricity. And I think, that might be enough to nod him over the top, because up until that point, I think the ball kid had been running away with it, but he broke his wrist, Charlton, and he missed some significant time.
Yeah, he broke his wrist, missed some time, but he's back in the saddle again. It's just a testament, Big C, to the training table when people get hurt and they're saying, well, you got to toughen up. I want to just expound on the young man breaking his wrist. When you break your wrist, Steph Curry broke his wrist a couple years ago, Big C, that he had to miss a long part of the season. And no one says that these guys are flopping or tanking when they break a wrist or they break a bone. But there are times also when players are hurt, it may not be a broken bone, but it could be a twitch in the hamstring. It could be a twitch in the groin, Big C. And so players know when they can go full throttle or not, Big C, no matter what media says. Big C, your thoughts?
It depends on how much hurt no more you want to use, Charlton.
Yeah, well, what is hurt no more? Is that moonshine with ice, or is that just something you buy out of Rite Aid, Big C, your thoughts?
It comes in a little canister, Charlton, and you can administer externally or internally.
Oh, okay. I thought you did the kind that you do internally with the libations you make, but it's all fair enough. Word, from what I understand, you can also hurt no more, or at least you can't tell when you're hurting when you have too much of that libation. It's all fair in Love and War. Big C, I want to look at Sixth Man of the Year and the finalists. And everybody has their own opinion. You talked about just the other day, and a lot of people focus on the star player of a team, maybe the big two on a team. But what about that Sixth Man of the Year? I think maybe one of the best Sixth Men of the Year I've ever seen was the great Andre Iguodala, when Steve Kerr encouraged him to come to Golden State when they were in Oakland and come off the bench, Big C, and he helped them win championships. But the Sixth Man of the Year finalists, I want to get Big C's thoughts. Jordan Clarkson from the Utah Jazz, Big C. Joe Ingles from the Utah Jazz. And also, my pick is the great Derrick Rose for the New York Knicks. And I'm picking Derrick Rose because he's been hobbled with injuries. He's been on different teams. He was a former MVP, Big C. And now he, back with Randall, they have the Knicks relevant again, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Rose is an inspiring story when you look at
He's
what
amazing.
he's done with Thibodeau, Charlton, coming to New York. They were together in Chicago. They had an illustrious time there. But I like where you are in Utah. I mean, you got to go with the kid in Utah, Charlton. Not Ingles, but the other kid. He's going to win it all.
Clarkson.
I mean, Utah's had an outstanding year, Charlton. They won the Western Division. And your players get rewarded for excellence.
Yeah, they get rewarded. Snyder's doing his thing. He's been a great coach for a long time. But they'll probably not see the Western Conference Finals. Who knows? It's just a matter of how the ball bounces. It's all fair in 11 war. Before we come up on the Big C pause, I want to get Big C's thoughts, because I know you don't like defense, because you're down there in the SEC area, Big C. They don't play defense. I mean, the only team that got defense is Alabama. When their second place team, Florida, gets beat 55-20 by Oklahoma in a bowl game, and that's the second best team in the SEC conference. It's all fair and 11 war, but I got to throw that football in there, Big C. Defensive.
Well, like you said, the players opted out of it because they didn't want to play in the game and get hurt.
Yeah, they didn't want to get hurt by those Oklahoma Sooners. They thought Brian Bosworth was still playing. It's all fair and 11 war, Big C. But Defensive Player of the Year finalist, the great Rudy Gobert, Utah Jazz. I would like to just say that he has earned it because he's had to put up with a lot of garbage because of something that he did when he did not know about touching microphones and COVID-19. Also, my pick, and it's just my opinion, the great Draymond Green. The great Draymond doing his thing, Green, Big C, because when Draymond comes to play, and he's not being called for a foul when Anthony Davis runs into his back, Big C, and not getting teed up, Big C. The great Draymond Green, I've seen him do it for 6 years now, Big C. He's like that Rolex clock. He's always on time, Big C, for the Golden State Warriors. Also the great Ben Simmons, Philadelphia 76ers. Some people say he cannot coexist with the great Joel Embiid. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they've had a problem, Charlton, being on the court at the same time. They lack consistency because both want to be in control of the basketball. Draymond Green has had an outstanding year. The Warriors were 5 during the regular season in defense, ranked number 5. But, when you think about Rudy Gobert, Jonathan, he alters the game in the middle.
Yeah.
And that's what the significance about him is, and he'll win that Defensive Player of the Year award.
It's all fair and level war. There's a lot of great players. No matter who gets the award, I know the players would rather have a championship, but the award is it's an accomplishment of being acknowledged by people maybe who are not out there on the court, but it's all fair and level war. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. When we come back, I want to get Big C's thoughts on the NBA Coach of the Year, and in the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, we'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. I want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe, just like God said in Genesis 1:3. Let there be light. Open your cell phones and say it. Play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up all over the world, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports, and you'll hear us pay homage to our military every single show. Big C, Coach of the Year, finalist, Big C's thoughts. With the great Monty Williams, Phoenix Suns, obviously it's a done deal for him. I think he's the best. I mean, when you think of what the Phoenix Suns were before, and he had them rising like the Phoenix Big C, he got to be #1. The great Tom Thibodeau for the New York Knicks. Of course, they're doing their things. And then quietly, like a missile in the night, or like Jazz that's really quiet at night, Big C, Quinn Snyder of the Utah Jazz, Big C, your thoughts?
Quinn Snyder, he's done such a marvelous job, but the Utah Jazz are getting no respect out there in the West. They don't get it from the media. They don't get it from the sports books, Dalton. When you look at what Tibbs has done in New York, getting the Knicks back in the playoffs for the first time in almost a decade, and being the #4 seed in the Eastern Conference, what an outstanding job that he has done.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, when we look at Phoenix, set NBA records the past 2 years, 15-plus wins over the past 2-year increase, Charlton. So I think Phoenix will walk away with the Coach of the Year.
Yeah, it's all fair in love and war, Big C, and I think, obviously, if you look at everything that's happened in the world of basketball, Monty Williams doing his thing, getting some help from the great Chris Paul coming over, but definitely like him as Coach of the Year. Most Improved Player finalist, Big C, and everybody talks about, well, the NBA, some guys are taking the day off, or they're not hustling. If you don't think an NBA player is hustling, get out there and run up and down the court all by yourself and do that for 48 minutes. Everybody's hustling in the world of the NBA. They just don't have the hustle that Russell Westbrook has. But when you come to Most Improved Player finalist, Big C's thoughts, the great Julius Randle, the New York Knickerbockers, has them the #4 seed in the Eastern Conference Finals, Big C. The great Michael Porter Jr. with the Digger Nuggets. Even though Nikola Jokic gets most of the credit there, you can't see them on local TV in Denver. Maybe that 420 has a problem. They usually would come on at 4:20 p.m. every day, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you don't know what dial it is. When you say 420, are you looking for one of those numbers on the ticket?
Yeah, you can find them at 4:20 p.m. when all the great goes down. It's all fair level work, Big C. Also, the great Jeremy Grant for the Detroit Pistons, Most Improved Player finalist. I don't know how anybody goes further than the great Julius Randle for the New York Knicks. Not only is he playing in the Big Apple, he actually has the people in New York believing that they can win a basketball series, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there's a lot of equality across the board when you look at all three of those finalists. All of them increased their point totals this year by double digits. So you think about the effectiveness that they had.
Yeah.
But when you think about Julius Randle, you got to think about the total impact that he's had with the New York Knicks. He even got some consideration in MVP thoughts, Charlton, from a lot of people around the league. He will walk away with the sixth man.
Yeah, he's been doing his thing. Just an incredible player. Plus doing it when you have the pressure of New York City, Big C. There's a lot of great things going on in the world of the NBA, and I really appreciate the way that things are just falling together. It's all fair and level war. Man, it's getting hot in here, so take off all your shoes. Take off all your shoes, not your clothes, Big C. Take off all your shoes. You'll get in trouble for taking off your shoes, but you can't run around streaking and taking off your clothes is all fair and level war. And you definitely don't want to take off your clothes when you're on ice, Big C. Some good old boys playing ice hockey on the brink of falling into a deep hole, Big C, against the reigning Stanley Cup champions, and the Florida Panthers refuse to concede. Big C, have you ever fallen into a deep hole, Big C?
Oh, yeah, Charlton, we got a lot of sinkholes around here in the South, and periodically we got the fishing on the bank. You can slip over and go into a crevice that you didn't know was there.
How do I know the answer would be yes, you have fallen into a deep hole? If it's not this, Big C, hopefully you know how to get out. It's all fair and level war, man. Ryan Longberg, Big C, scored on a breakaway at 5:56 into the overtime Thursday night, capping a furious comeback that gave the Panthers a 6-5 victory over the Tampa Bay Lightning. Big C, is all fair and level war in Game 3 of the first round Central Division playoff matchup on ice. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, they were fighting for their life. If they had gone into a 3-0 deficit, Charlton, there was no way they were coming back against the Lightning. I think they just got a one-game reprieve on that, Charlton, and the Lightning will take the next two.
Yeah, the Lightning. If you see Lightning, get out. Don't try to hang around and see if you can watch it. You hear Lightning, get out. God knows they were doing this all fair and level war. The Panthers cut the Lightning's lead to 2-1 in the best-of-7 series by scoring twice in the third period to overcome a 2-goal deficit, and then killing off a penalty at the start of overtime and winning it. Big C, Game 4 is Saturday, and they're going to be on ice. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, the Lightning will strike, Charlton. You'll see chips flying everywhere off ice.
Yeah, it's all fair and level war. I just love this time of year. It's so hot, but there's a lot of good things to watch and enjoy. It's all fair and level war. NHL, Big C, each time the New York Islanders, they tried to get some momentum, the Pittsburgh Penguins had an answer of their own, and now they have led their way to a first-round playoff series, Big C. Brandon Tanev scored a tie-breaking goal with 3:36 left, and the Penguins, the mighty Penguins, Big C, they beat the New York Islanders 5-4 in Game 3 on Thursday night to take a 2-1 series lead. I was asking you just the other day, if you had a chance to go see the New York Islanders play or the New York Knickerbockers, which one would you go see? You said you would go to see whichever was closest. I think even the New York Islanders want to watch the Knicks in the playoffs. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you got to understand that the New York Knicks are going to have 15,000 fans at Madison Square Garden. They're opening up the house because ticket prices, Charlton, are ranging from $230 to $8,200.
They're gonna open up the thing to full capacity. I think it holds 18,000. Big C, your thoughts?
15,000 is the capacity for the game.
That's crazy. Well, I guess it's all fair and level war. COVID does not exist.
You have to prove you've been vaccinated, Charlton. If you've been vaccinated, people in New York, lead the way as far as vaccination.
Yeah.
So you come in, you got your COVID card, Charlton, showing you've had your 2 shots or your 1 shot, depending on the vaccine that you took. You can buy your ticket.
Yeah.
They're not going to discriminate against you. But you will still see fans wearing masks.
Yeah, well, that's good. They're going to be wearing masks and they've been vaccinated. So there is progress. It's all fair in the Big Apple, Big C. Jeff Carter scored twice. Chris Letang had a goal and 2 assists. And Jason Zucker also scored for the Penguins. Tristan Jerry stopped 26 shots. That's a lot of... I guess he earned his money stopping 26 shots. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Penguins are very comfortable on ice. They can slide all over the place.
Yeah, that's all fair level war. Speaking of Penguins, I hope they enjoy the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger. It comes with exotic meats, and it goes great with the Budweiser Zero, which has 0% alcohol, and it goes great with the Big C burger. It's all fair level war. NHL hockey, Big C. The great Paul Byron broke a tie with a shorthanded goal from his knees, Big C. I thought he was praying or maybe to propose to somebody with 7:16 left. And the Montreal Canadiens, they beat the Toronto Maple Leafs in an All-Canada Series, Big C, by the score of 2-1 on Thursday night. Game 1 of the first round series between the original 6 rivals. The game was marred by an early collision that sent Toronto captain John Tavares off the ice on a stretcher to a hospital. I hope he's okay. I don't think it was intentional. Them good old boys that came together to solve it. He didn't even throw a punch because he was feeling so bad for what he had done to someone he considers also a friend. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Tavares, he's going to miss the next game, Charlton. He's in the hospital with a concussion. He took a knee to the head on the way down to the ice, and unfortunately he had to be carried off. But all is well based on the CAT scan report.
Yeah, well, that's good to see. I know it's a tough sport, and people get injured all the time, but it's nice to see that he's going to be okay. It's all fan level war. Big C, also, the Las Vegas Golden Knights at least Las Vegas will have a team that makes the playoffs. I know the Raiders moved down there, but they haven't been a playoff team since the great Jack Del Rio got fired, Big Z, and they brought in your friend John Gruden. But the Las Vegas Golden Knights, they trudged into the locker room at the first intermission with little, when you think about it, little to like no other time left on the clock, Big C. It turned out that the time was all they needed. Riley Smith capped a 3-goal second-period surge by the Golden Knights for the go-ahead score, a 5-2 victory over the Minnesota Wild to grab the lead Thursday night in his first playoff round series. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you think about the Golden Knights, Charlton, since their exception, they have not missed the playoffs in the NHL.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, you think about all the talk that's going on about expanding to the great city of Las Vegas, and everybody says they want to go, but actually you have a team down there that's actually earning the money and not just going out there stealing the money. But well, in your opinion, and I don't know the answer to this, I think football will rule anyway. It's like the Raiders will become the identity in Las Vegas, Big C, but the Golden Knights, they actually are earning the money, Big C. Your thoughts?
I don't think that the Raiders will become the identity. That, you know, when you think about the Golden Knights and the success they had, Charlton, when you understand and appreciate hockey, especially in the desert, when you have such a dominant team, you can't take a lackluster team and thinking that it's going to overwhelm the city.
Yeah, well, we will see. I know Vegas is a very transient city, but it's all fair in Leavenworth. War. Wish them nothing but the best. Mark Stone had 2 goals. Patrick Brown and William Karlsson also scored. Nick Holden had 2 assists. And Marc-Andre Fleury, Big C, picked up another postseason win for the Golden Knights, who went up 2-1 in this West Division matchup. I love when people are having fun in the world of sports, Big C. We have some UFC fighting down in Las Vegas. Hockey's going strong. And, of course, football is always a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week business. It's all fair in Leavenworth. War. Wishing everybody the best in the world of the NHL as they float on ice. Big C, I know we talk so much about all the sports that are going on, and everybody loves NFL football, and we love college too. But I want to take some time. I know that golf is happening, and may the best man win. It's good to see Phil Mickelson at least going into the weekend not missing the cut, even though we have a very famous golfer in Johnson that may miss the cut, Big C. It's all fair in Leavenworth. War. But in college sports, the road to the 2021 Women College World Series NCAA softball tournament, Big C. There's a lot of young women that are doing their thing, swinging the bat, and they don't hit the home runs the way the men do, Big C, but it's all fair in Leavenworth. War. From 64 to number 1, the Women's College World Series, Big C. It returns after last year's NCAA softball tournament. It was canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and the top 4 seeds is Oklahoma as the favorite, but it's good to have it back, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, see, that's why I beg to differ with you. The women don't hit the home runs like the men do. They actually hit more home runs than the men do. When you think about Oklahoma, led the nation in home runs, Charlton, 130 hit by the ladies who down in Norman, and they were just a dominant team, and they're the best team in the country going into the tournament.
Yeah, I just meant by distance. The guys can hit a 430-foot home run, and women don't hit the ball 430 feet. It's all fair in Leavenworth, War, but they are playing. The fundamentals are very much there. I want to look at what's happening with some of these teams. Oklahoma is amazing how they get so many recruits at Oklahoma in the city of Norman, Big C. Number 1, Oklahoma, they have 44-2, Big C. The Sooners cruised through the Big 12 tournament. They capped it off by a 10-2 win against Oklahoma State, their in-state rival, in the championship, Big C. And they head into the NCAA tournament as the clear team to beat no matter what conference they're from, Big C. Your thoughts?
Johnson, they are good. These ladies can swing the bat. They're fundamentally sound. They don't take any shortcuts, and they get physical on you with that long ball.
Yeah, they get physical with that long ball, and they're a very good, fundamentally sound team. I want to come out to the West Coast, Big C, the number 2 seed, the UCLA Bruins, University of California, Los Angeles. They are 41-4, Big C. If the Bruins are able to defend their 2019 crown, and again, they didn't have the chance to defend in 2020 because of COVID. So they are the defending champions, Big C. It certainly would not come as a surprise. They breezed through the Pac-12 or Pacific 12, Big C, to win their 11th conference title. And again, the Pac-12 currently has the defending conference champion or national champion, Stanford Cardinal, for women's basketball. And now they have the defending baseball, softball champion, Big C, the women's UCLA Bruins, Big C. Your thoughts?
And they also have the 2-time player of the year, reigning 2-time player of the year, Charlton, their pitcher. UCLA is an outstanding baseball team. I mean, they're no stranger to to the playoffs in women's college baseball, and they'll be right there along with Oklahoma when we get down to the Final Four.
And rumor has it, Chip Kelly, the football coach for the Bruins, he's been out there scouting some of the girls that like to play hard. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, we know how soft the Bruins football team has been, Charles, in the last couple of years. Maybe they can show them how to hit something.
It's all fair level. We'll see how hard they are, how hard they hit when they do the same thing to LSU that they did to Texas A&M. That SEC team came out to the Rose Bowl and left with their tail between their head. It's all fair level war. Number 3, when you look at the women trying to win a national championship, it seems like they're there for every sport. University of Alabama, the Crimson Tide, Big C, 45-7 is the record. The Crimson Tide, they topped Florida 4-0 on Saturday. They won the SEC Conference Championship Tournament and received the lone first place vote that did not go to either Oklahoma or defending national champion UCLA. Big C, your thoughts?
Yeah, they're the most dominant team in the South, Charlton. When you think about the Lady Tide, they've been rolling, and they rolled through the SEC tournament, and they're going to be a challenge in the softball tournament.
Yeah, they're going to be a challenge, and I just love the way that the women do the fundamentals very well, and oftentimes, you were talking about the no-hitters, Big C, in Major League Baseball. We've had, I think, 6 no-hitters. Usually every year we'll get about 7. I'm predicting we'll have 19 no-hitters, Big C. I think there's something going on that maybe is more than I understand. But to see women, the way they play baseball and the softball fields, Big C, you really love seeing the fundamentals. Number 4, the Clemson Tigers, Big C. They are 42-6, Big C. They're a very good team. While the Tigers may have fallen just short of claiming the ACC tournament title, what they accomplished as a first-year program in 2021, like their football team, Big C, they've been incredible, Big C. Your thoughts?
You think about it. You said it all in one word, Charlton. First-year program.
Yeah.
This is the first year that the Lady Tigers have played college baseball, Charlton, and they've already dominated and made it to the tournament.
Yeah, they've already dominated and made it to the tournament. I just love when people have the chance to just compete, whether it's baseball, softball, when we have the volleyball, Big C. We have another champion out here on the West Coast for volleyball coming out of the Pac-12, at least beach volleyball for the women, Big C. USC Trojans did that. I know everybody wants to see teams win. I love seeing how they compete, Big C. I wish everybody nothing but the best. I want to turn to the pitch. Hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Home run, Big C. Tonight, Friday, May 21st, Major League Baseball schedule. Will we see another no-hitter tonight, Big C? Your thoughts?
I think everybody's going to be relaxing for the Memorial Day holiday.
Yeah.
And just let everything fly out of the park.
Let everything fly out of the park, Big C. We have the Baltimore Orioles at the Washington Nationals. Boston is at Philadelphia. The Chicago White Sox, with your friend, the great Tony La Russa, going to the New York Yankees in the Big Apple. Big C, is there enough hot sauce and barbecue sauce for La Russa and a little bit of libation too, Big C? Your thoughts?
They do sell beer in the ballpark, Charlton, and you'll probably have one of those coolies around the can thinking that everybody's thinking that it's a source.
Yeah, it's all fair level work, man. I wish everybody nothing but the best. Should be some great baseball happening in New York City. They will take a back seat to the New York Knicks and the Atlanta, the basketball team, the Hawks. Big C. It's all fair level war. Minnesota at Cleveland, New York Mets at the Miami Marlins, Milwaukee at Cincinnati, Pittsburgh at Atlanta, Big C. The Braves, Acuna might hit another home run. Tampa Bay at the Toronto Blue Jays in Buffalo. Houston is at Texas, Big C. And this is where they'll have flash bulbs going off and nobody cares, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they've been doing well this season. The controversy, still follows them from a few years ago.
Yeah.
But it's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. It's all fair and level war. Detroit at Kansas City. The Chicago Cubs at the St. Louis Cardinals, one of the best rivalries in the history of baseball, Big C. Arizona Diamondbacks at the Colorado Rockies. I think they can see the Rockies on TV in Denver, but they can't see the NBA Nuggets or also the Colorado Avalanche. I believe they can see the Rockies. Oakland A's at the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. That's called the AA Series, Big C. It's all fair 11 war just down I-5 from each other. Los Angeles Dodgers at the San Francisco Giants. This is West Coast versus West Coast. It's Northern California versus Southern California. And the Giants actually have the best record, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, but as you so-called media, Charlton, don't rank them as the best team in the West Coast.
Yeah, I said they would compete for it. I didn't know if they would win it or not, but, it's all fair and level war. I still think the Dodgers will come back and take it. But the Giants most likely will get a spot in the postseason. Seattle is at San Diego, and Tatis may just hit another home run. It's all fair in love and war, and I wish everybody nothing but the best. I love the fact that we have so many great things going on. We just sat Northern California versus Southern California NBA style when the Lakers and the Golden State Warriors, and those phantom calls that caused Golden State to have 15 turnovers, Big C, and when somebody runs up the back of Draymond Green and he's being called for the foul when he's the one who got rear-ended, it doesn't make sense. Hopefully we'll have better refereeing and officiating for the baseball game tonight. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, that's partialness that you witnessed in that game.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the better team won, Charlton? It was the best bet-on team won.
Yeah, it's all fair and love and war. I know that everybody has all of their thoughts about how to do things, but I want to go back for some black history. On August 30th, 1800, a tremendous storm that dropped heavy rain on central Virginia, swelling creeks and turning Richmond's dirt, Big C. There's dirt streets into some quagmires, Big C. The storm aborted one of the most extensive slave plots in American history, a conspiracy known to hundreds of slaves throughout the central Virginia. A charismatic blacksmith named Gabriel, who was owned by Thomas Prosser in Henry County, planned to enter Richmond with force, capture the capital and the Virginia state attorney, Big C, and hold Governor James Monroe hostage to bargain for freedom for Virginia's slaves. There's this thought that slavery, they were just laying down and taking a beating, that they were just laying down and not fighting back. But they were up against the powers of the state, Big C, law enforcement and the law itself, but they never stopped trying to rise and shine. And I love that spirit in all African Americans. And even today, people still rise and shine no matter what, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is a critical race theory that they're trying not to have allowed in the schools across America, Charlton. I had a cousin that was teaching school a couple decades ago. And when the TV series Roots came out, Charlton, he scripted his program, his history program around that in school. And yet the faculty and the staff came to him, and the school board said he could not teach about slavery and American history in that class.
Wow.
So he was no longer able to tell the students about what really happened to the plight of black people in America. You know, it's been a lie throughout history, Charlton, how whites have treated blacks, and they still want to keep that covered.
Yeah, sometimes that's why I tell people you can Google anything. You don't need someone's permission to Google. You don't need someone's permission to read, and only reading will open up the mind to all people.
But in the 70s, Charlton, there was no computer to Google
That's true.
with.
Yeah.
So no one had access to that.
That's
so until Roots came out on television, Charlton, America was not aware of how bad slavery really was.
Yeah.
It brought it to the forefront on a national level.
Yeah.
And still today, you have the United States Senate trying to block this type of education in the school system, said because you paint a bad light on white people.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the truth shall set you free, and the truth sets everybody free, and some people don't want to know the truth. But the truth is, I wish that everybody just keep reading and get the information for yourself. You don't need Big C Sports to tell you or the news. You can find out for yourself. That's how we all make for a more perfect union. Big C, I want to just touch a little bit on what's happening in the UFC. In the UFC fight night in Las Vegas, you got Cody Garbrandt. He's fighting the gentleman by the name of Frat. I believe that Cody, I held his belt one time after he won a UFC fight, Big C. He was at Team Alpha Male, and I remember with the great Uriah Faber, I was holding that belt. It was heavier than I thought. I almost dropped it on my foot, Big C, but I held on tight, Big C, and I hope that the great Cody Garbrandt against Fant tonight. It's going to be actually Saturday in Las Vegas for UFC fighting. And even with UFC fighting, Big C, there's a lot of things that just, outshadows UFC because they do it almost every week, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's nothing special about a UFC fight, Charlton, when you think about it, because of the regularity of it.
Yeah.
There's really no big build-up for any spectacular event, that comes along every 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Because it's just like parking a car in your driveway. You do it all the time.
You do it all the time, and sometimes if you do it in the right driveway, it's still outside when you come outside to get your car. It's all fair and love and war. There's a lot of golf going on. As I mentioned, I wasn't really into golf much this weekend because there's so many players that are out there doing their thing, but it is nice to see that at the PGA Championship Golf Leaderboard results, when you think about it, I like seeing, Phil Mickelson is up there tied for first, Big C, last I saw, and then you have Alsterson's also there, Brooks Koepka right around, hanging around third. He was 5 under last time I checked, And it's amazing how he's over 50 years old, and they're always trying to say we're waiting for these new young kids to make golf more exciting for the younger generation. But to me, whether it's Tiger Woods or Phil Mickelson, or even if you think about a guy like Vijay Singh, Big C, or McIlroy, they want to push Spieth up there. But when you have some of those old-timers, if 50 is old, I don't think it's old at all, but it's good to see some of those old-timers, if that makes sense to you, actually trying to win on the green, Big C. Your thoughts?
But he's not consistent, and he doesn't move the needle like he did a decade ago, Charlton.
Yeah.
The thing about golf, it reminds you a lot of the UFC, is that there's always somebody new rising up, and you don't know who to root for.
Yeah.
And the guys that they try to hype are not winning.
Yeah, sometimes they're not winning, and that's why it's hard to just watch everybody. It's the same players every single time that are in the tournament, and it's almost like it's too eugenic. I wish golf would diversify more. Maybe people think, oh, don't worry about that, just don't watch it. But I think it would be more inclusive if they just reached out at the younger levels and got more people involved. It's all fair and level more. I want to do something a little bit different coming up on this beautiful holiday, Big C. I know a lot of people that have served this country. My father served this country as a veteran, have a brother who served this country as a veteran, and a nephew who served this country as a veteran. So my family represents the Air Force, the Army, and the Marines, Big C. But I'm also very proud of what a lot of sports people have been doing. They didn't leave it up to the news. And even when you started talking about, Charlton, let's address mental health and offer some type of message for our veterans and not just say, hey, we thank our country and we support our troops and then that's it. Like, you could do a handshake faster than that, Big C. It's okay to take some more time and say how you really appreciate it. But I want to just say, I applaud everyone who's focused on mental health. They do it a lot in Hollywood. Mental health awareness and suicide prevention. We do it every show. Feeling alone is like nobody cares about you. Nobody really values you. So it's really important now for us to let people know that we care about, or that we're worried about them and how much we care about them and value them. When young adults, they're asked if they had a serious consideration of suicide in the past 30 days, Big C, people say, well, I just want to watch the game. But not everybody's having a good time watching the game, Big C. I want to make sure that we reach out to young people and let them know that it's important. Talking about mental health, it should be similar to asking people about their physical health, or asking them, man, who won the game? Are you going to watch the game? Can you see how he dropped 30 points in the game? Did you see that touchdown pass? Did you see that home run, Big C? If somebody says they've been having stomach trouble, we have no trouble going back to them and saying, hey, how's your stomach feeling? Or if their kids are having some issues, hey, how are your kids feeling? You weren't feeling well last week? We need to be doing some of the same things with mental health. I think it's really important that we start to put that message out there more as a society, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, one of the things about mental health in American society, Charlton, is that people have always looked at it as an embarrassment. If you realize decades ago this country led the world in mental institutions where they would just lock people up and say, medicate them and forget about them.
That's right.
And that's what we did as a society. So we forgot how to stay in touch and care about people from that mental perspective. And as you spoke about it, when somebody's feeling ill with a cold or a fever,
yep,
you always want to check on them and see how they're doing. If they sprung their ankle, are you getting better?
Yeah.
We don't like to talk about mental awareness in this country because people over the decades have thought that was a sign of weakness or bad genes in a family pool, Charlton. But it's been always part of America.
Yeah.
And you have to pay attention to people's thoughts because we're a nation that's built on affection and attention.
Yep.
We always talk about money and sports and stuff, but it's about affection and attention. Athletes get attention. That's affection from the fan base.
Yeah.
And so this is what you have to give to people around you that you know, whether it's family, friends, or neighbor. Have that conversation.
Yeah. It's always important, Big C. A lot of people in church, I guess they're starting to allow churches to get back in, and that's where people can go at least once a week on a Sunday to have someone pray with them or pray over them or just let them know, hey, how's everything going? Give somebody a hug, see how they're feeling. A lot of people just want to fix it, and a lot of people who are stressed out, they want somebody to listen. Don't be afraid to ask about self-harm or suicide. There are certain things that a loved one can say to somebody that a therapist cannot say or do. No matter what, you let people know you'll always be there for them. You mean so much to me, or that I love you. I just called to say I love you. The great Stevie Wonder had that song, Big C. Those are life-saving words that only loved ones can say. A lot of parents say to their children. They're incredible connecting and powerful words, and people are feeling desperate and alone. especially coming out of this COVID, where a lot of people are just been kind of isolated, Big C. And I'll close with this, Big C, before we touch on one more sports story. Even if you can't be physically with someone who's having a hard time, and there are many ways to remind them that they still have strong connections to people who care. I know there's a lot of times in the mortgage industry dealing with elders, sometimes people will take advantage of an elderly person because they may not know anything. So their laws call elder abuse, which is a felony. Some people do it anyway. So there are times when elderly people, they don't have anyone to reach out to, because oftentimes the people that take advantage of them are their caregivers, and that's a shame. But you can still reach out and get help for people if you suspect that's going on. We even have to sign an acknowledgement that there's no elder abuse going on when we do a loan application for reverse mortgages, Big C. But we got to make sure that people don't feel isolated. And unfortunately, there are people who will take advantage of others, even if they think the person doesn't know it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you're thinking about caring about somebody, I don't know if that equates to taking advantage. When you're talking about caring about somebody's mental wellness, is that you're checking up on them. And this is what suicide comes from, regardless of age, whether it's a young person, Charlton, whether it's an older person.
Yeah.
People do that from emptiness, hollowness, feeling that they no longer are important, that they no longer matter. And this is where we lose touch with people in America, because we don't let people know that they matter enough, regardless of the age of an individual.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has led to suicide. So it's about being socially aware. It's like, as athletes, they always tell you to be aware of your surroundings.
Yeah.
As people, we need to be aware of the people that are around us. If somebody is struggling, you haven't seen them for a length of time, Charlton, they haven't communicated with anybody for a length of time, reach out and check to make sure that that person is okay. This is what we do to help stem suicide in this country, is that we have to pay attention to be more focused on mankind.
Yep, very well said. And also, just everybody reach out to people that you love, make sure they're okay. But at the same time, if people are being taken advantage of by someone that's supposed to love them, you can also reach out and get help. There are remedies for so many things. And I want to make sure, because I deal in that environment every day, that you got to make sure you help people who sometimes cannot help themselves. I hope that everybody can enjoy a great weekend, Big C. I hope that everyone feels healthy, wealthy, and wise, that people can get out and exercise, go for a walk, do whatever you can to keep yourself together. There's a lot of good things going on in the sports universe. We have NBA basketball, we have WNBA basketball, we have Major League Baseball, Big C. Football is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have the NHL hockey. And I wasn't even joking when I said, have you ever fallen through a hole, Big C? We've all fallen through holes at times, but you got to find a way to climb out. I'm looking forward to a lot of good things. Big C, I told you, I've been feeding these bluebirds in my backyard, and they have they're coming and eating the cheese puffs. The squirrels have been eating the cheese puffs, and even some ants have been eating the cheese puffs. Big C, I think I might have to change my diet for the bluebirds. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, you got to get something more healthy. You got to have those birds have a cardiac arrest.
Oh my God! I don't want to be the cause of birds falling out of the sky. If that makes sense to you, all fair level war. I hope that everybody can rise and shine, no matter what you're going through. Always rise and shine. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. With all you've got to use, how can you lose? Big C, what are you looking forward to in this sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I'm hoping that Adam Silver gets a little social awareness, the commissioner of the NBA. I know Seattle wants that a NBA team, and they got a big fish market up there with flopping around all over the place, but he also realized that fish come out of lakes, and the Lakers are doing so much flopping around down in the Staples Center the other night, Charlton. Maybe they need to put a couple staples on their shoes to keep them upright.
Yeah.
Once again, I want to thank the frontline healthcare workers, the nurses, doctors, first responders. I know the Lakers are faking on the flop, but maybe they had some abrasions that they had to get some bandages on.
Yeah. Hey, it's called La La Town. They were doing some acting to get in, but everybody's been flopping all over the universe. You can flop too, but don't flop on the Big C Sports Show every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, where you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America, at Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As my mama always said, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports Show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.